If you've been playing Borderlands 2 long enough, there's a pretty good chance that you have at least seen or heard of a mysterious thing known as Black Rarity, a rarity that is seemingly beyond legendary, and when these weapons are thrown on the ground, they glow with what appears to be a black aura. Today, I'm going to talk about what exactly black weapons are. Now, before we start, I'm going to recommend that you have at least a fairly decent understanding of the Gibbed save editor for Borderlands 2. And while you still will learn something from this video, if you don't have a decent understanding of Gibbed, some of the parts towards the end will be far more difficult to understand without a proper knowledge of Gibbed. Also, I'm not really going to go over how to actually get these weapons in your game, and instead, I'm mostly going to be focused on explaining on what they are. And while I will mention ways in which black weapons can appear in-game, you're going to have to search around online to figure out what the actual process is to do it. But I guess without further ado, let's talk about some of the differences between black weapons and other modded weapons. Now, there are a variety of modded weapons in Borderlands 2 today. If you're playing on PC and you've got the community patch installed, you can take advantage of community patch gun and weapon mods. However, before the community patch was made available on the PC, in order to play with gun and weapon mods, you had to create hybrid weapons in Gibbed save editor, and sometimes hybrids would be Black Rarity weapons. Now, before I explain what a hybrid is, it's important to note that all Black Rarity weapons are hybrids. However, not all hybrids are Black Rarity weapons. Now, you may be wondering what a hybrid is. Well, a hybrid weapon is a weapon that combines two unique weapon parts together. And for those of you that have played Borderlands 1, legitimate hybrid weapons exist in that game, and thus that's where the name comes from. Whether it was intentional by Gearbox or not, weapons like the Ajax Ogre, Nemesis Invader, Bone Shredder Savior, and Reaver's Edge Penetrator are hybrids that can drop in the very first Borderlands. And what made these weapons special is that they combined key weapon parts from both of the weapons that make up the hybrid. In the case of the Ajax Ogre, it was a combination of the Ajax Spear combat rifle with the Ogre accessory for combat rifles. And in the case of the Nemesis Invader, it combines the Invader scope with the Nemesis accessory. So you kind of get the idea. Now, something that's worth pointing out in Borderlands 1 is that a unique, legendary, or pearlescent weapon could be defined either by its unique barrel, unique scope, unique accessory, unique magazine, or any other unique weapon part that you can think of. And because of that, you would get guns to drop in-game that could possibly contain two unique weapon parts that would normally define what the weapon was. The advantage of this was that you gained basically the best of what both unique weapon parts had to offer on just one weapon. However, Borderlands 2 doesn't work this way, and instead, guns in Borderlands 2 are defined by their weapon barrel. And as an example, weapons like the Sandhawk are the Sandhawk because they have the Sandhawk barrel for dull SMGs. And the Infinity Pistol is the Infinity Pistol because it has the Infinity Pistol barrel for Vladoff pistols. And while there are some outliers like the Fremington's Edge Sniper, which has its own unique scope, for the most part, all weapons in Borderlands 2 are primarily defined by their weapon barrel. And because Borderlands 2 was designed this way, it's not actually possible to get a hybrid weapon to generate in the game's loot system. After all, a weapon can't have more than one weapon barrel, and because there are no longer any unique accessories, magazines, or any other unique weapon parts, that means no hybrids. However, the hybrid weapons in Borderlands 2 combine unique weapon barrels together to achieve similar, if not stronger effects than what was seen in Borderlands 1. For example, a Borderlands 2 hybrid could be an assault rifle that shoots Norfleet projectiles, or you could combine an Infinity and a longbow together to get a longbow pistol or sniper with infinite ammo. And these weapons were accessible for Borderlands 2's first year, and they could be put in the game by loading them into your bank. Now, it wasn't until the Digistruct Peak DLC came out that Gearbox went in and patched this functionality out, basically killing off hybrid weapons. However, over time, there have been at least two different methods to mod these back into the game. The more notable way was a cheat engine script that allowed PC users to access these weapons. Of course, these had limitations and only worked with guns. There is also a newer method that actually works on all of the versions of the game, and while I won't go into too much detail, it involves manipulating mission data in the Gibbed save editor to essentially give you a hybrid weapon as a quest reward. However, I won't say anything else, so console players can keep playing relatively mod-free if they choose to do so. But if there's anything you're taking away from what I'm saying here so far, it's simply that hybrid weapons are guns with multiple unique weapon barrels attached to one gun, where the goal is to create something that inherits the properties of all of the weapon barrels attached. Now, I mentioned earlier that black weapons can be hybrids, however, not all hybrids are Black Rarity weapons. And if you've by chance used a hybrid weapon before, there's a good chance that you've encountered white, legendary, pearlescent, purple, or Black Rarity weapons. You can even encounter this very obscure rarity that isn't even used in the game at all, which is known as limescent, and it has the color aura of money provided that you drop limescent items on the ground. But I digress. In order to answer what Black Rarity weapons are, we have to go over how Borderlands 2 determines the rarity of guns and weapons. Before we discuss this, I'm going to be referencing a Steam guide by Steam user Magic Gonads, as without this guy's guide, I would have never figured any of this out. And I'll also be referring to some of the terminology that he uses to explain how rarity works in Borderlands 2, so I highly recommend that you check out his guide if you would like some more information. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's discuss how rarity in Borderlands 2 is determined for weapons. So the quality of a weapon's body and the quality of its barrel are usually what determines a given weapon's rarity classification. And the way it works is that the different weapon bodies have different point values, and different weapon barrels can also have different point values. Weapon bodies are typically graded as having 1 to 4 points corresponding to each weapon rarity. For example, your standard body will produce a white weapon, body A or body 3 will produce green rarity, body B or body 4 will produce blue rarity, and body C or body 5 produces purple rarity. Certain weapon barrels also add points, and E-Tech barrels add 2 points, while legendary barrels add 5. However, the rest of the barrels in the game don't add any points. The combination of the number of points determines rarity. So 1 point equals white, 2 points equals green, 3 points equals blue, 4 points equals purple, 5 points equals this weird proto-legendary, which isn't even seen in the game, 6 points equals E-Tech, 7 through 10 points equal legendary, 11 points equal this alternate white rarity, which isn't seen in game, and finally 12 points and higher will equal a black rarity weapon, which also isn't seen in the game. So let's say you wanted to lower the rarity of your Lady Fist to green. You would need to swap out body B for body A. And if you wanted to make it a purple rarity weapon, you would need to swap out body B for body C. And the way the math would work out for these is that the Lady Fist's barrel provides 0 points. However, body 3 for pistols provides 2 points, making it green, and body 5 provides 4 points, making it purple. So provided you could get the proper body onto a Lady Fist, you can change its rarity from white to purple depending on what body is on it. You can do something similar with legendary weapons. Because legendary weapon barrels are 5 points, you can get an E-Tech weapon by placing a legendary weapon barrel on a white weapon body, as you can see with the Varrock that's being pictured. Now, in order to get a black rarity weapon, the weapon body and barrels have to match or exceed 12 points in total. So one easy way to get a black rarity weapon would be to combine 2 legendary weapon barrels together. That way, the listed rarity for the weapon will be black. And if you compare these 2 weapons, one of them is a regular Lyuda, however the other is a Lyuda that's been combined with a Kerblaster, and is a black rarity weapon as a result. Because the Lyuda's body is 4 points, and the Lyuda and Kerblaster's barrels are 10 points combined, you get a weapon with a total of 14 points, which means it will be a black rarity weapon. Now, it's worth pointing out that we need to discuss Seraph weapon barrels. Unlike weapons from the vanilla game, if you try to make hybrids out of Seraph weapon barrels, you can't get Black Rarity weapons. Instead, Seraph weapons will actually unlock an entirely new set of rarity tiers. And while I won't go over each individual tier, what I will say is that these tiers involve like Seraph rarity, pearlescent rarity, limescent rarity, as well as some duplicates of previous rarities that you're familiar with that are higher tier than Seraph. If you want to learn a little bit more about those rarities, I'll leave a link to Magic Gonads' Steam guide in the description. So to sum things up, Black Rarity weapons are hybrids that typically combine 2 or more legendary barrels together on just one gun. And while you can get Black Rarity weapons in other ways, this is perhaps the most common form of a black weapon. Additionally, Black Rarity weapons can't be made if you're using Seraph weapon barrels. So if you combined a Lyuda and the Stinger together, you wouldn't get a Black Rarity weapon. So what is a Black Rarity weapon? Well, it's a hybrid with 2 or more legendary barrels on just one gun. At the end of the day, Black Rarity weapons, along with hybrids, are part of a forgotten era in Borderlands 2's lifespan. They were really only at their peak within the first year of Borderlands 2's launch, and given that it's 5 years later, well, they're not as popular as they once were. It's sort of a shame that a lot of these things just got patched out with Digistruct Peak, as some of the weapons and items were pretty cool, especially some of the Black Rarity jump guns that you could use, which would allow the player to go out of bounds and get into places that they weren't supposed to. And as you can imagine, like we were just going over before, a lot of the jump guns would make use of the legendary Bada Boom barrel, and it would be combined with an Infinity barrel to make a Black Rarity hybrid. My hope is that Gearbox will make some sort of homage to Black Rarity weapons in future games. Now, they don't necessarily have to include them in the game, but I think it would be kind of funny if they made like a random reference, and that would be kind of neat. Or perhaps we could see the return of legitimate hybrids in Borderlands 3. Now, they don't necessarily have to be as powerful as Black Rarity weapons, but I do think it would be cool to see the return of the Ajax Ogre, the Nemesis Invader, and things like that. But alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like and let me know what you think about Black Rarity weapons. Do you think they are like the devil, or do you think they're just kind of fun to mess around with every once in a while? Otherwise, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.